Welcome, welcome.
All right, so we'll get started. Look, hey,
Yeah,
y'all know if it's Wednesday,
1 minute
it is blockchain day. So welcome to Blockchain Chat. People are saying happy birthday to Dr. Keisha. It was a couple of days
Thank
ago.
you
So
on
happy
Sunday. Thank
birthday.
you. Thank you.
Happy
all.
belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Dr. Keisha has some wonderful guests here. I'm just here to do a quick announcement, actually 2 quick announcements for you. Number one is don't forget December 28th. If you are a member, December 28th, we're having our next mastermind session. Many of you said you want to make 6 figures in blockchain in 2021. That is the time, December 28th, 7:30 p.m. for you to come. We mastermind together. Everybody's on video. Everyone's talking about the projects they want to work on or the things that they want to do so that you can reach your revenue goals in 2021. So again, if you're a member, December 28th, 7:30. If you're not a member, it is an annual payment of $100. You can come to blockchainstudies.tech. Or blackblockchainconsultants.com in order to become a member. There's just a button there. You just click that. We also have specials through the month of December that Dr. Keisha, would you pull those up while we're talking? We have specials on our courses, different packages for you so you can give yourself or somebody else the gift of knowledge for the season. It's a great thing to do. So Dr. Keisha, let me know when you have those up.
Yeah, they're there. Should be showing. Are you guys seeing it there?
Yep, we see it.
All righty. Yes, we have the blockchain. I'll make it a little bigger. We got the blockchain crypto startup bundle that includes 4 of our courses. We have our LinkedIn optimizing your blockchain or your LinkedIn profile for blockchain. We have our crypto economic security course. We have membership to BBC, and we have our blockchain 101 course all in that bundle there. Running for, again, with the code, it will be 21% off. And I'll have to drop that code in the chat there. And I believe that code, I'll have to put it in there. The Xmas Extended is what it is, all lowercase. We also are featuring our Future 14 pack, which has our own Jackie Hayes has her book, Blockchain Basics for Teens, along with the course with our, again, blockchain optimized LinkedIn course together there. So we're future forwarding our teens because they are our future, and this is going to be their life as on a norm. So they need to know about this first. And of course, because we're talking about dApps today, we have our blockchain smart contracts bundle, which includes our blockchain, again, that optimizing the LinkedIn course, and our smart contracts course, which talks about all that we'll be discussing today on one level or another. All right. Come on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Keisha.
And that's just 3 of many other wonderful courses we have.
Many other courses.
Yes.
So all sorts of stuff that you can take within BBC. The final announcement that I have is a personal favor. Today, I set up a survey for BBC for 2021. I want to know what you want, who you would like us to invite to Blockchain Chat, what things you want to study. How can we support you in your blockchain endeavors? So I'm going to be sending that out probably this evening. I'm going to be sending it out several times over the next 2 weeks, because we're going to use that information in order to plan for 2021. So if you would please, it's only like 6 questions. It'd probably take you less than 5 minutes to complete, but it would really, really help us design BBC and the programs in the way that will help you reach your revenue goals. Whether you want a job, whether you want to start your own business, you want to grow your business, etc. So put a 2 in the chat if when I send you the survey, you will complete it. Put a 2 in the chat.
All right, I see it.
2 in the chat. And in fact, I'm going to actually put it in the chat here and
great.
in Facebook as well, so that people are able to get access to it. So thank you so much, everybody that put the 2 in the chat. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Keisha and Eric, and I am going to mute myself out and all of that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome to both of you, Chase and Nick, for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, indeed. All right, so again, we're welcoming tonight our, I'm going to call you guys our dear friends from times past. When you called TryCrypto, looks like things have changed. Now we're Decentology, the combination of technology and decentralization. You want to hear all about that? I trust that what's going on in the space right now with the concerns with centralized this, that, and the other not working, that this is exactly why you guys are honing in this space. But we also know that there's this whole move towards NFTs and all of that. So we just love to hear what's going on with you all and what's brought along the change. And one of you guys can jump right in. We've got our titan of tokenization here in Eric, my co-founder here. So I'm sure he'll jump in with some information or concerns or points, because he's totally excited about tokenization.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's new? I know we talked about decentralization and how you guys still, the mission is still the same, that you are making everything easy, for the developer, for the blockchain enthusiasts. But what's new? What's going on?
Yeah, so we actually put together some slides, which if you're okay with, I can share, and we can sort of walk through, update, and then, feel free to interrupt at any time, because, want to have sort of a conversation. But we thought it would be useful to put together, to sort of direct and share what we've been up to in the past while, actually. Can you see my screen?
We can. Looks good.
Okay. Beautiful. Yes. So we rebranded. That was a big change. We're super excited to be back and chatting with you. This is such a great community, and we loved chatting. So we're very excited to be sharing this sort of new front that we're on. So to kind of give a little bit of background for anyone who doesn't know, Nick and I are co-founders of what used to be TryCrypto, what is now Decentology. So I live in Ann Arbor. I'm in my final year at the University of Michigan, and I love all things blockchain, just like hopefully all of you. I'm a big podcast junkie, so if you want to talk about blockchain, podcast, anything in between those two things, hit me up on Twitter, email, whatever. I'm always down to chat and talk all things blockchain related.
Yeah, and I'm Nik Kalyani, the other co-founder. I live in Mountain View, California. I'm a serial entrepreneur working on my 5th startup now. I've had 2 strikes and 2 wins so far, so it's even. My favorite thing to do is to avoid warranties. I love to do that. And my most notable achievement in the recent past is that I got 2 beautiful puppies last month. So Ziggy and Juno, going left to right. I think all of us need some puppies all the time these days to lighten up the mood. So here we are. So yeah.
And they're precious.
And to kind of to sort of take a step back, a lot of what we had talked about last time was, this technology has the potential to do so many amazing things. And that was sort of our conversation a while back. And we still are very much driven by that. But to your point, the thing that we've really sort of reassessed is that developer tooling in the space is still really bad. I mean, I think you guys have probably seen this even when you're trying to develop certain things for BBC. Like, it's challenging, and the tooling is just not there.
Yeah, we try to stay in the realm of, the different platforms as a service, kind of thing. So yeah, go right ahead with yours.
Yeah, so it's really, it is quite challenging. And so today what we're kind of hoping to go over and chat about is all of the different ways that these platforms exist, is ultimately it comes down to a question of how can people who are not super technical communicate with people who are technical. And so what we want people to walk away with tonight is, hey, I might not be, you know, building a blockchain application and coding it. Maybe I am, that's cool. But if you aren't, how can you, as someone who's in the blockchain space, learn to communicate with developers and learn to understand what's going on in the industry? And so we have a tool that does that. There are certainly other tools that are working on getting at that. But ultimately what we want to do is have you walk away with something that maybe you hadn't considered before. So I can sort of run through some of the non-technical side of things, and then Nik will touch on some of the more technical stuff. But ultimately, when we had first started working together, Nik and I, one thing that he always sort of instilled was this idea that you should understand all the technical pieces, because as someone who's not technical, that is really an asset. And so that's something that we've continued to do, and we're hoping to bring a little spice of today.
Appreciate that, because we are definitely the non-developer professional interested.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's challenging. So before we even sort of dive into that, what I wanted to do was clear up what we consider to be definitions of things, because of course those are always different from what other people consider as definitions of decentralization, of Web3, of dapps, whatever it might be. So our definition of decentralization, and this totally touches on what you were saying earlier, is the process of moving control from a few single centralized entities to a more distributed system, to many entities, and really making sure that you have power that is not just rested in a very small group of people. And to us, that's really powerful. And our sort of idea of how you can do that is by incentivizing certain types of behavior within a community. So you have people who are getting more involved here. You want to make sure that you have what is to the benefit of an individual aligned with the community as a whole. And to us, what that means, and the reason that means a more equitable world in general, is when it's done well, it actually looks more like a democracy instead of a dictatorship, where everyone truly does have a say. And that means things can be more fair and more equitable, but it also means that everyone feels like part of a whole. So that's not only our goal here, where people all feel like they're able to speak the same language and understand all of these pieces, but also, you know, ideally building a world that actually looks like that at scale, which can be challenging. So sort of touching on, and I know you guys are probably, this is, you know, like the back of your hand, but something that we consider as sort of the major benefits of decentralization as a whole is building community in new ways. So when we think about how Reddit is using Ethereum right now to incentivize people to contribute towards communities, the second piece is working with a bunch of different entities. You know, that's sort of your traditional supply chain use case. It's a lot of the DeFi use cases, things like that. And then the final piece is really what gets Nik and I excited, which is an opportunity to redesign existing systems, especially where they don't serve people today. And we all know that happens much more often than it should. And so the opportunity for blockchain to redesign these systems is something that we believe is really important and is a core of not only our own beliefs, but I think of the community in general. And I think that's why we all love this community, right? Like, it's such an amazing opportunity to completely change the systems that we are frustrated with today. And that's pretty exciting stuff. That being said, the thing that we, again, want to really focus on is this entire developer side of things, because that is quite important. It's something that as technical or as non-technical people, we often sort of struggle to understand at times. And understandably so. If you're not a developer, you haven't tried blockchain application development, totally makes sense. So the first piece is this paradigm shift. So centralized development has all of these very specific design patterns and best practices and things like that. When you move into the decentralized world as a developer, that is completely different. And so when you're working with developers in this space, one of the most important things to remember is they're oftentimes in sort of a new world, whether it's that the documentation is outdated and so they're trying to figure that out, or they're trying to deal with this entirely new paradigm. It's completely new. And so empathy for developers in particular is something that we like to promote a lot. The second piece is that we like to talk about immutable like it's a good thing, and generally it is. But as a developer, you don't always want to hear that something is immutable. That can be quite scary, actually. So when you think about sort of the product development process, you often build, test, find a bug, fix it, and then keep doing that exact same process. That, when you introduce the factor of immutability, can be challenging. Of course, there are test nets and ways to deal with that. But oftentimes it can be quite sort of just a little scary, I would say, maybe. I'm sure that's not the right word, but for developers, it's intimidating. That's the right word. Because it's new and it's different and it's something where you don't have the opportunity to change things. And then the final piece that we like to really hone in on that developers are often not used to is cost plays a really big role in Dapp development. So one of the big pieces here is if you're a developer and you're building a Dapp and you're used to building centralized applications, you probably haven't had to deal with not only immense storage costs, so you can't really store almost anything on Ethereum. It's incredibly expensive. It could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to store like a megabyte or a few megabytes, which is unusual. That definitely does not happen with AWS. And then the second piece here is user costs. So do users have to pay for transaction fees? And so you have to sort of think about all these variables as a developer that you traditionally wouldn't have to think about at all. So for us, a lot of this conversation is about helping non-technical folks understand here are some of the key challenges that technical people in this space face. And what that really means is being able to empathize and be that bridge. And that's sort of where we want to go. Before we go there, though, and again, feel free to interrupt at any time because this is something that, we know. I think you might be muted, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am.
There we go.
Yep, I am.
Oh, you were? Okay, you're intentionally muted.
Yep.
All right, good. Just wanted to make sure. I want to make sure I wasn't not hearing you. So in terms of the dApps that we sort of look at and the way that we see the Dapp market, we divide it into 4 different categories. So the first is decentralized finance and decentralized exchanges. So we'll touch on that just a little, but not too much. Collectibles, so that's NFTs and games. That's where we like to play. That's where we're really excited. And when you talk about the 6 figures, making 6 figures in blockchain, this is where we really believe non-technical people, especially if you don't have an interest in finance, can come in and get really excited. And then the final piece is gambling and high risk. This is something that we'll touch on only because we're excited about the fact that it's slowing down. So when we talk about adoption as a whole, starting on the bottom, actually, I'll say, we're very glad to see gambling and high risk dApps slowing down, because what that means to us, slowing down in growth, because what that means to us is that people are no longer using blockchain to just do sort of these high risk type of things, whether it be online gambling or doing these sort of strange financial transactions that are questionable, because it means that we're finding other use cases. And that is a win in our book.
And it also is nice that that's slowing down, because it seems that kind of gets a negative spin to this kind of work. And there's enough of that already,
Oh, yes.
And I definitely see the gaming and collectibles being that onboarding to mass adoption big time, for most people.
Oh, yeah. And that's part of why we're so excited. So when we think about even something like DeFi, one of the big things that's happened this year is there are a lot of new products that have come out that have been more accessible, not necessarily for the mainstream user, and we'll definitely touch on the mainstream user with the collectibles piece in a minute. But even when we look at some of the DeFi stuff that's going on, the UI, like the user interface of all these, have completely changed. It is so much easier than it would have been even the last time we chatted, which was probably 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, a year ago. It would have been way harder to use these applications then. And so we're seeing some things like Compound and Aave blowing up in lending, where you can borrow and loan money within a totally decentralized network. And then, of course, we're seeing the absolute explosion of decentralized exchanges because things like Uniswap popped up, which provided way more liquidity than you could ever even imagine 2 years ago, which was really big in the tokenization front. So from that perspective, we're thinking that DeFi is definitely continuing to grow, and certainly being more sort of open for mainstream users. But the real mainstream user space that we're excited about is the NFT market. This is something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about, that we've had partners specifically to be able to focus on this market. So the expected market cap at the end of this year is going to be 315 million. Now that sounds small, but when you think about it, there really aren't that many NFT applications yet. We'll go over our favorite ones, but if you sort of think, 3 years into the future, when a lot of companies start doing what is currently an experiment, I think this will continue to grow a lot. That being said, even if we think about sort of the limited experiences that currently exist, we're still seeing on Ethereum alone quite high transaction volume that's growing pretty quickly.
Let me stop you for a second. Can we define what NFT is? I know we know up on this panel, but just for some of our visitors here.
Yes, so that's a good question. That's something I should have put in my little definitions part. So when we think about NFTs, we're talking about non-fungible tokens. Now that's obviously a mouthful. When you break it down, if you think about Bitcoin, for example, one Bitcoin is divisible. You can break it up into as many units as you want, and you can use it to trade, transact value, whatever. That's a token. Now, a non-fungible token would be an asset that you can't break into a single part. And so something that you could even think about is, let's say, a house, for example. A house is an asset. It has a certain amount of value, but you certainly can't break it into a bunch of parts and use it to buy food for, groceries or whatever. And so from that perspective, it's an individual and unique asset. And something that is interesting and exciting about blockchain in particular, and let me see if this is on the right side. Actually, it is. So this will be useful. So the perfect example of an NFT is a Cryptokitty. So this is my Cryptokitty. Kahuna, I wouldn't even know how to go about pronouncing that last name. Yeah, Farawump. So this is an NFT, which means that on the blockchain, it is a single token that is unique. There is no other kitty with this name, with this number that you see underneath the name here. And so it is a sort of perfect example of scarcity on the blockchain. Like one of the biggest problems, and the reason that Bitcoin was interesting, is that you needed to be able to show that a single dollar couldn't be copied. An NFT does something similar. You cannot copy this cat at all. Can't happen. Cryptographically, you cannot do it. So from that perspective, NFTs are really exciting, and they allow me to own something that is truly unique and my own on a blockchain. Cryptokitties, for people who are now sort of first hearing more about NFTs, were sort of the first iteration of what an NFT could be. So people didn't really know what you could do with NFTs. Cryptokitties popped up at ETH Denver many years ago and absolutely blew up because people started breeding them, which is a really exciting sort of element of this, which is to say that embedded within the NFT is the ability to have like a gene. And so you can actually breed. You can see there's a breed button. I know my screen is probably really small on your screen, but you can see there's a breed button. So I can actually go and breed with another cat, and then like an owner of another kitty, and then we can create our own cat based on our very specific genetic material. Which could never, of course you could probably do that in centralized games, but you would never be able to have that specific unique kitty that is owned by you without doubt, and you could never take it other places, which you can with Cryptokitties, because of course blockchain provides, if you follow like the standards within the Ethereum community, this ability to have wallets show up. So there are some really interesting things that you can do here.
Now, let me ask you about that, because I think when people hear Cryptokitties, they're just like, okay, what is this? This is not useful. Is there, some type of, real world application for NFTs, with regard to the business application of that, is that what you guys are getting into as well?
Oh, yes.
Art and things. There we go.
Oh, yes. So NBA Top Shot so Cryptokitties has games that you can go and take your cat to. And so from that perspective, there's an entertainment element of it. NBA just launched a game called NBA Top Shot. You can check it out. I believe we have a link. But this is a really exciting, real use of NFTs. So you go and you can get the NFT. You can go and basically buy a pack, and then within the pack you have they're called moments. And when you have a moment, you have this like very specific, this will be like a layup, for example, in a very specific game. And you can start curating these games into these moments into showcases. And I believe they're going to continue to expand so that you can continue to engage in different capacities. Now, this is in beta, so this is something that's very much still sort of being worked through. It's actually developed by the creator of Cryptokitties, Dapper Labs, who's one of our close partners in the NFT space. They have a new blockchain called Flow, which is sort of optimized for this type of use case. And we actually are one of the only platforms that support Flow right now, because they're very much still sort of strategically going out to market. Another game, Gods Unchained, does something similar. Excuse me. So basically, you can go in, and I believe you move across like a board, and you actually have certain NFTs within that you can move across. So what we're starting to see in this market is that people aren't just creating CryptoKitties for the heck of it. What we're seeing is that people are actually creating environments where you can use your NFTs. And that's what we're excited to start seeing. To your point, you know, what can you do with this? It doesn't matter. Of course, what we're looking at here is the entertainment use cases. Now, this is something like a racing game where you actually have, not only is your car an NFT, but also all of the parts that you can add to it are NFTs, which is how real cars work, right? Like there's not a million copies of the same car. There are technically, but physically is only one of them. And that's exactly what NFTs allow you to represent. So this is another example of a brand, Formula One, doing some sort of racing game. So this is F1 Delta Time. And this is one that also has gotten really popular for the same reason. So you can take an NFT and then you can actually go and play with it, which is really cool. One more example real quick of NFTs that I absolutely think is super interesting is this company called So Rare. So they're very new, but they're actually like a soccer like team management game. So you can go and buy your certain cards, which are NFTs, and then it's kind of like fantasy soccer. So you have them, you arrange them in a certain team, and then you can like verse other teams from what I understand about it. So it's a really interesting shift in the industry, going from let's make stuff that people can say they own to let's actually make stuff that people can say they own that they can use and really start to engage. And that's what we're seeing. And even to your point about art, we're seeing companies like Rarible allow crypto art. So it doesn't necessarily have to be art related to crypto, but it's these NFTs that represent pieces of often digital artwork, and you can buy them. And you know, that's always important because you want to make sure that there's only one of something. If there are a million of them, then it's worth much less to you. And so Rarible is, of course, like an interesting platform for being able to explore the NFT space and also understand it's entertainment focused, but there's this element of art that really does make a big impact and is a really interesting use case for NFTs.
Let me ask you something too. In light of, you know, with those different applications that you're talking about, what's a way that people should start to think about, you know, like what is I guess maybe the design thinking approach that people should start to kind of come from as we kind of figure out new ways to use this technology in this particular application? Have you guys figured out a way to have people kind of, and I mean, this is like non-technical people, just, you know, a way to kind of frame your mind, because I know you guys are in the space of making things totally understandable. You've been doing that from the very beginning. Sometimes you can offer a metaphor or a you know, some type of parallel that makes people get it, but then you are able to take them over the edge because it's so much different, you know, it's like, it's like this, but it's totally like this now. You know, is there something that you guys have been able to say in your work on these, or and maybe even Eric has heard this already in all the different podcasts and things that you've listened to. But I was just curious, you know, how to get people thinking about the possibilities for this. Because I'm glad you showed what you showed there. Because when I think people hear the kitties and they're like, oh, you know, they're just, you know, it's just playing games or whatever. But what I want and what we want to do in our space is to have, you know, while it's kitties, you know, consider all the benefits, and then what would you want to do with it, you know, and don't wait for somebody to design it, because you might be that person. That's where we're at now with tools like what you have here that are ready to use. Anyway, I may have said too much, but the question was, you know, how do you think about things?
I can take a stab at answering that question. You know,
Okay.
when you think about these collectibles, etc., the analogy is you know, baseball cards, etc., right? I mean, you collect them because you hope that at some point they'll have some value. Yep, got it. It was the low-hanging fruit for NFTs. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. NBA Top Shots is just like that. You want to be the only owner of this particular LeBron dunk or something like that. There's only 5 of them in the world. You got it. Great. That satisfies some people. But you're right. It's not a good business use case. So let's shift gears and think about a business use case. There is going to be a time not far into the future from now where your title is going to be an NFT. The title to your home, the title to your car, the title to your boat. When you need to move it, you don't have to do some complex, shenanigans with government officials, etc. It's moved, and cryptographically, the ownership is transferred. That's what's eventually going to happen. So one way to think about this is scarce assets. The construction industry, for example, there is rampant theft and fraud in that industry, quite a bit. They have a lot of expensive equipment. At some point, every one of those pieces of equipment is going to be represented by an NFT. And when someone rents it out or borrows it, etc., that NFT is going to change hands. So there is no ambiguity that it moved from location 1 to location 2. So those are just a couple of examples. There's a ton more coming. And in the later part of the demo, I'll show you how we are creating a tool to allow you to exploit some of those things.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
And while Nik was saying that, I was thinking, like, what might a useful analogy be to an NFT? And this might be terrible in hindsight, but it's interesting. If you think of like a birth certificate or maybe a social security card, I suppose one of those, what that does is it says you are in fact a person. You are an individual person. I can prove. Maybe a social security number is the best example of this. Yeah, but you're an individual person. Yeah, who's totally different from someone else. And you guys are never going to be confused as the same. You're definitely a unique human. And something like that is kind of a good example of what an NFT basically is. It's the representation of a unique individual. You can't divide it up. You can't copy it over. It is exclusively unique and its own. And so that might be a good sort of framework to start with. Of course, the divide between Social Security card and NBA Top Shot, it can be big in people's minds. But as you continue to explore and play around, and we've got a resource for exactly that, that's something that we really encourage a lot is try things out. I think a lot of people in crypto conceptually are interested in crypto, intellectually get it, they get why it's interesting, but they don't try things. And when you don't try things, you don't understand what's great and what's terrible and how good it feels to have your own Cryptokitty and, all of these different aspects. And that's important.
That's hugely important. As a matter of fact, that's the move that BBC is going in at this point. We want to start to develop portfolios of skills in these places, because we've been around for 3 years now, and it's like we've talked about it, we've been about it. Now it's time to have something to show, because most people want that anyway, and we're the people who've been talking about it all this time. So here we are. So I'm so glad to again have you guys show us what you have, and I won't interrupt. Keep going.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, so when we think about like some of the business benefits, it's about unlocking new net revenue streams. That's why a lot of these companies are basically licensing out their intellectual property. That's what NBA Top Shot is. That's what Formula One is. It's all about taking IP that people already like, and then being able to allow them to really own it. And what that does when you engage with that community is, again, it's the same reason that when we're in a democracy, we vote and we feel strongly about our government and what's going on, is that we feel like we own a piece of that community. And that's really important within digital communities as well. So the more you can create that ownership and decentralize that ownership, the more you're going to have community involvement and engagement. And that's something that we're really excited about. Now, that sort of is manifesting here when you look at this list. So the first, I would say 4 are much more in the entertainment realm. And then the last 2 are true sort of business use cases that are like hard business cases. They don't have the entertainment. Of course, entertainment alone is a business, but it's certainly less black and white. In the real world asset and identity piece of things, though, you can see where NFTs could be potentially interesting. To Nik's point, if I wanted to sell my house, I can have an NFT representing my house and then exchange that NFT. And that would be really important. That's what title companies, the entire title industry exists for now. That would be completely changed. And then of course, identity is a really important thing, to be able to not be able to replicate. There should never be 2 of me digitally. That means something has gone wrong. And so being able to go, there's one, and this is the single one, is pretty important. And that's something that we see as a really big use case. So we put together a document to help people explore the world of NFTs specifically for this conversation. So anyone, I can put this link in the chat too, but if you go to bit.ly/Decentology NFT, we put together a special list for you guys of the games that we went through. It also has the slides that we're sharing, but it is the games that we went through, all of the links. I will say as a side note, So Rare does not require you to have any crypto initially to get started playing around with it. They just give you NFTs. So that is one that I would absolutely check out if you want to get your hands dirty, try some things out. That is a really good way to get started and play around a little bit with the cool stuff going on in this space.
We thank you so much for that link. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Drop it in the chat.
And then Nick, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can start. That way you don't have to deal with me futzing around with moving the slides around, because you definitely don't want me presenting on this slide. I could, but maybe not as fun.
Yep. So now that Chase has given us an excellent overview of NFTs and dapps and what the state is, etc., what I want to do is switch gears a little bit and go deeper into sort of the development aspect of it. And I always like to start things off by contrasting Web 2.0 development with Web 3.0, because I won't assume that everybody in the audience knows the difference. So let's take a quick peek at what a Web 2.0 application development is like. So in general, there is a backend, that's the server stuff. And then there's a front end, which is the client stuff. So in my picture here, every typical web application has to be hosted on a web server. It's typically in the cloud somewhere. Generally, web apps that are non-trivial also communicate with an API, an application programming interface. It essentially, the way to think about it is the web server is mostly serving up content, but the API server is doing work. It's doing programming logic and things like that. And in most instances, that API server has to store data somewhere, and so it typically communicates with another data server, typically a database server somewhere in the cloud. So you've got these three servers now. There could be many more, but in general, this is what an app looks like. And on the client side, you may have a web browser accessing your web server. You may also have a mobile app. Mobile apps, because the user interface is in the app that's been downloaded already onto your phone, they typically just bypass the web server and they hit the API directly. So that's kind of the lay of the land in terms of architecture of your Web 2.0 application. Now let's take a look at what the responsibility areas are. So in order to keep your Web 2.0 app alive, so staying alive, right? What do you got to do? Well, you got to pay the bill for the web server. You got to pay the bill for wherever the API server is hosted. You got to pay for the DB server. You got to pay to have someone write your web client, and you definitely got to pay to have someone build your mobile app. So you got to do all this. The web client and the mobile app, if you stop paying, it's still going to keep working. It's okay. But on the other three, if you stop paying, it's gone. Your app is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. That is a fact of life for Web 2.0. And that is what we call centralized applications. They are centralized because you control the very existence of those applications. If you decide, I'm going to stop paying, it's gone right away, right? Let's contrast this with Web 3.0 and what happens there. So in Web 3.0 application development, there's basically two components. There is a smart contract on the blockchain. So a smart contract is really nothing more than a set of rules that have been written in the form of a program that run on the blockchain. And then there's a front-end client, and that's similar. So the difference here in architecture is that your front-end clients, whether it's your web browser client or your mobile app client, they don't hit any web servers and things like that. They can hit any blockchain node. So let's take an Ethereum blockchain, for example. There's hundreds, even thousands of nodes available. You can spin up your own node if you want to. Your web browser and your mobile app can hit any of those for your smart contract because it's decentralized. A smart contract that you've deployed to a blockchain is available on every node of that blockchain. That's a very important mind warping thing to get your brain there. It's available pervasively and everywhere. So now that you've done that, what about like the longevity of it? Well, once you've deployed your smart contract, it is available in perpetuity. You cannot turn it off. No one can turn it off. Even if you don't provide a web client or a mobile client, I or anybody else can access that smart contract directly on the blockchain. There's nothing to prevent that from happening unless your blockchain, your smart contract happens to be on a blockchain that's a private or a permission blockchain. So here I'm talking about public blockchains. So like things like Ethereum, Matic, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't have to create these clients. You don't have to create the web browser client or the mobile app client. Anyone can create it. So earlier Chase mentioned Cryptokitties. Well, the company Dapper Labs created that smart contract and they created the website around it, but other people started building apps that worked with those contracts. Why? Because they can. Those apps are public. It's all, the smart contracts are public by design. So this is a very important kind of shift in thinking that's important when you transition from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 development. And it's important to also know that your app is always alive. Any mistakes you've made in your smart contract, sometimes called affectionately as bugs, are there forever. So you have to be very careful.
And it brings up kind of an interesting point. So, is how is that's kind of a little sticking point, isn't it?
Very scary. Yeah.
You can't correct, and hence what you were talking about before, the immutability issues. So your errors are forever, kind of thing. And it also kind of makes me wonder too about the interoperability issues. Are there any that exist with NFT?
Well, we're talking about software. There's always interoperability issues. But let me answer your question first. In terms of immutability, yes, once you put something on there, it's there forever. But that doesn't mean that if you made a mistake, it has to exist forever. If you architect your smart contract in a smart way, where you partition it into multiple smart contracts, so maybe one has your data and the other has your application logic, and you make it so that the one with the data only considers one other smart contract to be live and have permission to access its data at any time, you could swap out the application one and put a new one. So this is what in software we call it separation of concerns. So it requires good planning, it requires good architecture, but it is possible to do it. You won't ever get to the point where your application is 100% swappable. The reason being that if your application has any kind of data that's stored on a blockchain, if you're going to swap it and move to a different smart contract, it means you got to migrate that data over. And migrating data over is super expensive, as Chase alluded to. So, you might have like, a few hundred megabytes of data, and that might cost you $1 million to move over, which is not something you want to do, which is why contract data, which we call state, by the way, that is the part that's really considered immutable. The logic, you can probably get away with architecting your smart contract in such a way that it can be switched on. And in fact, in our platform, it's a feature we provide out of the box, so which I will demonstrate here.
And that was what I was going to ask you. It seems like that sounds like the proper architecture to have something that's modular from at all times, generally speaking, because as you mentioned, we already see that there's always a need for patches and whatnot. And, I'm just using that language. That's all the tech language I know as it relates to little bugs and code and such. Yeah.
So what are the challenges that people will find when they do Dapp development? Well, there's several, but I'll pick the top 4. First of all, blockchain documentation and SDK libraries, SDK is software development kit libraries, are rarely up to date. And, we are used to that in the software industry of things being not always up to date, but it's more so in blockchain because things are moving so fast. Things are obsolete very, very quickly. The next thing is something that Chase also mentioned is programming paradigms are very different and complex. You have to be able to think about your code in terms of cost per line. You don't do that in a normal web application. You don't think about what is the cost of running this line of code. You never do because we have tons of resources. But a smart contract application, every line costs money to run. So that's just one example. There's many others. There's plenty of sample code out there, but unfortunately it gets outdated very easily. And it may have security issues that you have no idea about. With the web application, you find a security thing, you're going to have buffers like your firewall, authorization, etc., to back you up. But here you're out. It's raw. If you have a security issue, you're in trouble. You could lose money, And finally, one of the big challenges in Dapp development is that getting just a developer environment set up is often a very painful experience because there's so many crypto libraries and things like that. So you cross your fingers and hope that on your particular computer, everything installs smoothly. But if it doesn't, it's a rabbit hole. It could be a multi-week rabbit hole of just getting to the point where you can run things. So we built our product called DappStarter in response to this. So what DappStarter is it's a software as a service. You start off with this thing that you're seeing on the left here, which is essentially a menu of options. What we've done is we've taken common smart contract design patterns and made them into these feature modules. They're essentially checkboxes. So you check, I want this in my smart contract, I want X, Y, etc. And once you're done, we're going to generate a custom GitHub repository for you with the full stack source code for that. So you're going to have the smart contract code, you're going to have unit tests, you're going to have a client, a web client, and you're going to have a server API all generated for you so that you can then clone it on your computer and you can start modifying it. The way we like to think about it is that we will get you 80% of the way and you add 20% of your special sauce to move things around. We are not what you might call a no code. We are a full code solution. So you get all the code. It's MIT licensed, so you can do whatever you want with it, but it's a great place to start because not only have we given you the source code, but we've also done all the orchestration, as you're going to see in just a minute here, to make it super smooth. Our goal is that from the time you go to our website to you have a working production grade app on your computer is 15 minutes. And I say 15 minutes, our best time so far has been 1 minute and 22 seconds. So yeah, enough talking. Let's come back to this in a moment. What I want to do is a quick demo, but we'll come back to this. So here is DappStarter live. So it's dappstarter.decentology.com. And we support multiple blockchains. Today, I'm going to demonstrate it with Ethereum, the public blockchain. We have different languages supported for different blockchains. So for example, Flow supports a language called Cadence. And so it'll automatically switch for that. You can choose your front-end framework. The most popular ones are Vanilla.js and React. We'll leave it at vanilla right now. And as I mentioned, then it becomes basically you choosing the features you want. So I'm going to choose this thing called contract run state that gives you the ability to pause and unpause your contract. And I'm going to go here and choose file storage, IPFS documents. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. As I've alluded to several times, storage on blockchain is expensive. So what you do is you use a system like IPFS, which is decentralized storage. So I'm going to do that. And then you scroll down here and you give your app a name. I'm going to just call it Hello World. And you say create Dapp. So what it's doing right now is it is busy cranking out the source code for the choices I made. You can make any choices you made. And there we go. We have a new GitHub repository that was created for us with all the source code. Now, I know a lot of you are not developers, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run this like a developer so you can at least see the experience and see how it works. All right. So typically when you have code in GitHub, what you do is you clone it to your desktop. So cloning is essentially copying it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy the link here. And over here on the right-hand side is my Visual Studio Code. That's the editor that most developers use. So you type git clone, and you give it the name of that, and it's going to clone it. Done. I'm going to go ahead and open it now. So here it is. We'll open it. And now the first thing you do when you get a project like this is you want to get all the dependencies down. So for that, we type a command called yarn start. And what this is going to do is it's going to start downloading a bunch of, oops, I'm sorry, do yarn and then yarn start later. So now it's going to start doing the dependencies. And what we've done is we've done all the hard work of taking care of figuring out which library is compatible with which library. And not only that, orchestrating that in a way so that as a developer, it works very, very fluidly for you. Over here, while it's doing that, it'll take about 60 to 90 seconds, less depending on the bandwidth. But you can see here, there's source code for the client. There is smart contracts. So here's some of the smart contract stuff I was alluding to. And one of the things you'll see is that there's a lot of this commented code in here. So we make an effort to make sure that when the developer gets our code, that they can easily modify it. So it's super simple to modify, and it's written with best practices in mind. It's highly secure code, and we write it so that you can change it and you can be confident that it's good code, you know? So, all right, so here it's done in 54 seconds. And now I type yarn start and hands off. And all what you're seeing there is all the orchestration. So we've actually launched a simulated blockchain here. We have compiled the smart contracts. We have deployed them. And now we are building out the web UI. And momentarily, we'll launch it. So you can see my browser just kicked off there. My hands are still up in the air.
Look, Mom, no hands.
It's gonna go through and finish it. And boom, we've got our Dapp running. So this is now live here on the right-hand side. We've got a blockchain running and we've got our Dapp running. Now this here, what you're seeing is supposed to be your canvas where you make changes, but we don't want to just leave you with this. What we want to do is make it super simple for you to modify code. So for every feature module you choose, we provide a complete UI for you. So I chose that IPFS documents. Mm-hmm. So you've got all the UI available here to interact with your blockchain application. In this case, what this module does is allow you to store documents on IPFS and store references to them in your smart contract. So let's do that with a couple of pictures. I'm gonna pick a picture here, pick a picture here, hit open. Okay, so you can see that this is a full-fledged UI. So we don't just stop at, here's some code. We give the full stack in all its glory. So we'll hit submit.
Let me ask you this. So the smart contracts function was to do what? What did you just create here?
Oh, so I have created a smart contract that has certain abilities. It has the ability to be turned on and off, and it has the ability to store documents on the IPFS. Okay. But in terms of the application, now as a developer, it's up to me to define it. So maybe I'm creating an application for storing insurance policies into smart contract. That's the part I have to define. So I can rename these things now and retool it without doing the hard work of the actual connection to the blockchain, the logic, all of that. But that's the 20% I was alluding to earlier.
Okay.
So define what you can do with it. It's kind of like we've given you the Lego blocks. Build your spaceship, build whatever you want. They're not just individual blocks, they're actually Lego modules. So we've given you a wing, a tail, a body, etc. So that's kind of the model that's going on here. So you can see here that whenever I interact here, you can see code happening here on the right. So earlier I posted those documents. Let's query the smart contract. You can see that it says, there's a URL for that document. We can go and look for it. And you can see that it got uploaded to IPFS. So there it is. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time. So I just wanted to make sure that I at least go through a quick demo here. But we're happy to share more information, etc. But what I wanted to really tell you a little bit more about here is to go into some more detail about what DappStarter can, in terms of as a business, what kind of time it can save for you, and then what our roadmap is, because now it dovetails into what Chase was talking about. So real quick, basically what you saw with DappStarter here, that's about 2 to 4 weeks of development that you can do in 1.5 minutes, all done for you. Bam. There's a lot more coming that could require a lot more time of you that we will make available with one click. and that's coming very, very soon. And so let's talk about that. So our roadmap is, there's three things I want to highlight. One, we are moving all the complex blockchain stuff that you saw on the right-hand side. While that took only a minute or a minute and a half, we still think that's too much. We are going to cut this time down to 10 seconds. So 10 seconds from the time you go to our website, you can have a fully functional blockchain, because we are moving a lot of the complex stuff into the cloud. The next thing, and the thing that we are super excited about, is we are creating an app called NFT App Composer that'll be right there in DappStarter, where you will be able to define what kind of NFT app you want to build, and it's going to generate it all for you. And I'm going to show you some preview screens in just a moment.
I was going to say, my goodness, I believe you. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you got an example? Let's see.
Yeah, and the third thing we are doing is we are creating an Oracle service. What many people might not know is smart contracts cannot communicate with the outside world. They can't call another website, and you can't call into them unless you're executing a transaction. Well, we are creating a drag and drop Oracle service that will allow you to connect your existing applications with smart contracts. So here's a screenshot of our app composer. So the way it works is you go through a series of choices. Earlier in DappStarter, I just made one choice, a checkbox. With the app composer, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, what kind of app do you want to build? Well, it could be a collectible. It could be an unlock. So these are foundations. Foundations are the basic type of NFT application you're building. An unlock application you can think of as one, perhaps you've got a video site and you have free videos and you have premium videos, and you need to have an NFT pass in order to unlock premium videos. So that's the kind of this. Or you're creating a role-playing game, and in that game, the swords and shields and all of that are all NFTs. You can earn them, you can trade them, you can merge them, and things like that. So you choose a foundation. And then there's all kinds of other details around minting, etc. But the part that I'm most excited about is our generators. So we are giving you the ability to say that I want my NFTs to come into being using one of these techniques. So for example, like Cryptokitties, it could be genomic. You could say, here is the DNA sequence that I have. Here's the DNA language. You can combine it and generate new and unique pieces of NFTs. A set represents, here's a set of baseball videos or whatever, and any set of any kind can be used. You can also design your own NFTs, and the two on the right, which will come a little later, are the business ones. So proxy is going to be the ability for you to create an NFT application to represent real world assets. Mm-hmm. So the title to a car, the title to land, any of that. And then you might have heard about GPT-3, the fantastic AI engine. So we want to enable NFT creation using AI here. So that's what NFT App Composer is going to be about. So yeah.
Well,
so
let me stop you for just a second. Yeah. GPT-3, actually, I hadn't heard of GPT-3. What is that?
So it is a very unique, interesting, and revolutionary new AI engine that has been trained to be way better than any of the engines we have. So if you Google it, you will find some of the demos where you can have someone say, build me a web application where with a web page rather, with a large image on the top, the headline that says, here is the breaking news, and the text below it, and it spits out the HTML for you, just like that. So it's pretty smart and it's pretty interesting. You can refine the instructions to it, and what we want to do is use the smart capabilities of it along with the smart contract to create new and exciting and revolutionary applications.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you guys, I think this is. I just want to tell you everyone, I think this is absolutely fantastic.
Isn't it?
It is. I think it's great. Dr. Keisha knows, and the rest of the group knows, I've been talking about NFTs for quite some time. I talk about tokenization, but I have always believed that NFTs are really where it's at. And I'll say this, for myself, I'm by trade a music publisher. And, music publishing, when you look at it as music as copyrights, one of the things you have to understand is, there are new songs that are created every single day. And those songs only come from someone else's thoughts, someone else's, whatever's going around in their head, their own human creativity, their own, whatever coming from their own soul is the thing that's then generated, that's able to then go on to become monetized and to make, millions of dollars. But what we're going to look at now, finally, with NFTs, allow us finally now to capture all of the thoughts. And this isn't just music. This is everything that human beings can generate into a digital format, and to have true ownership in terms of digital property rights over it, and to be able to move it across the internet. So you guys are right. You're playing right in the right stadium. You're right where you should be at. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Yeah, all right, killing it for sure. I mean, and I didn't even know about this portion. Is this the new part you guys have been working on? Because this is amazing. This is one-stop shopping that is user-friendly. I mean, I feel like I could do something with this. My God, that's awesome. This is tremendous. Yeah, I see you've been answering questions, which is great. Did we have any that were kind of out here that? Because I wanted that shared out. You're answering some great questions on the slide back there behind the scenes.
Oh yes, I can summarize actually if you want. We were basically talking about and I think we went through some iterations because Richard was explaining his question, and I think I now understand it. But I also see, don't forget to complete the survey, because the link is in the chat. So before I even say anything, I will say that. No problem. So basically the idea was, like, when you put an NFT on the blockchain, is that IP? And no problem. So basically the idea was, like, when you put I'm hearing some feedback.
Yeah, that's big. May's coming in. Let me see if I can. Oh, do I have?
Oh, there we go. She's muted.
Oh, there she is. Okay, hey, May.
Yes, hello. So the idea was, like, once you put IP on the blockchain, does the person who now owns that NFT as an NFT, does the person who now owns that NFT own the IP? So the intellectual property. And, like, to Eric's point, even if you were, let's use a song as an example. If you put a song as an NFT on the blockchain and people are able to buy it, if the creator of that song with the rights did not basically explicitly say, this is representing the intellectual property and rights to this song, which I know there are lots of different rights, there are different types of rights, but let's just simplify it and say rights, generally speaking. If you did not put those rights as sort of a representation on the blockchain within the NFT, then no, you would not own the rights to the song just because you bought an NFT that represents the song. However, if you as a entity decided, actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, this is a song, I'm going to sell the rights to it in an NFT as a representation of those rights, then you would be able to do that. And so there's this really interesting, I sent the link in the chat. So for anyone who can, I think everyone can see the answered Q&A, right? Everyone who's on the Zoom?
No, I don't think, is that how it works?
That's so sad. Okay, I'm going to send this in the main chat then as well. So the idea is that there's a really interesting article by CoinFund where people basically, the idea is that you can have IP represented on the blockchain using an NFT, and so it's this idea of liquid IP. So if I am a creator and an artist who has this work that I'm really proud of and passionate about, but I want other people to be able to monetize off of that work as well, I could go ahead and create an NFT that represents those rights and actually sell that NFT. And so there are a lot of really interesting experiments going on. But that's basically the main idea behind what we were chatting about.
So it sounds like it's, presently, there's the Creative Commons kind of rights, kind of things like that. So is that basically what you're talking about? Those kinds of legalities still need to be made available and coded into this digital space, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and a company, Nick, you're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Nick. Yeah.
The law has to catch up with the technology in a lot of ways, and that's always the case, right?
Always, right.
So, but it's going to require just one forward-thinking, super popular artist to say, this is the only way you're going to be able to access my content for the tide to change, and everything will start following that way. So we need just some superstar to do that, and
I say we start singing right now and record.
That's right.
And just put something fun out and then make it go viral, and we'll be that one. We'll tie it right back.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean,
Why not?
Say, one thing that I do say with this, and let me just say, it's funny coming. Like I said, I'm a music publisher, so I'm the suit, who's giving everybody a hard time on these sort of things. But nevertheless, recognizing the transformative applications of the technology and what it's going to do, and see what's going to happen is there is going to be this artist who is unsigned, unpublished, who has no kind of encumbrances.
Yeah.
And then for them, they will then be able to completely do this. And then they will, to me, be the Trojan horse that breaks the mold, and everybody else will then go and follow up.
Well said. I mean, they are not under the burden of the PROs right now.
Right.
So they are free to do whatever they want to, which is great.
Yep.
PRO is Performance Rights Organization. That's how a lot of the licensing revenue, it's a nightmare.
Right.
So I am an advisor for a startup that is doing music on the blockchain. So I'm kind of familiar with what Eric's talking about. Yeah.
The mess.
Well, guys, I'm very serious about that, Eric. I'm sure you know somebody we can get back and be hand claps on or something in the background. We can just get on.
No, I mean, a lot of this does
serious.
come. And I have to say, kudos to Chase and Nick on this. A lot of this does come then from those human ambassadors who then go out and then do speak to people very early on, let them know that, hey, this is a possibility that you can go at this route before you go. And then, you know what? And we know people are usually very receptive to new ideas when they're presented to them very early, and they're willing to take a chance on it. And it will pay off for someone in a very big way, the same way in which we saw when we look back at the, like the early, 2010s, and we look at those artists who really learned how to leverage the internet in a way that no one else had ever done before. And I will say this, they did it first before companies even knew what was going on. And then companies that started saying, oh my gosh, how did you do this? Show us what you're doing, and that sort of thing. So I see this same sort of format happening in the same sort of way. It won't be led from the top. It will be in the spirit of decentralization, led from the bottom, and then everyone else will follow alongside. So, yeah.
Well, we've got the tools, family. This is tremendous, guys. You have been working, and this is something to show for sure. We're excited, and we definitely are looking to have you guys come into BBC, and we work with you guys, and we'll start getting some portfolios built using your tool and bring more awareness to it and the like. So you got tons of beta testers here right in this community.
Yes, absolutely. We love to be sounding boards for application ideas. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We want to speak to people who are experimenting and want to build something. So use us as a sounding board. We'll be happy to share with you whatever we can and what we know.
Put our emails in the chat also. So you can reach out to us directly, Twitter, wherever. We're always open and always, like Nick said, happy to chat about blockchain, happy to chat about what people are building, and always happy to chat with this community.
We are obsessed with it.
Yes, as you can tell.
I'm with you.
This is tremendous. You guys stay fresh, stay clear, because you're coming up with some tremendous, your team is just doing a tremendous job with the ideas. And we want to feed right into that. Like I said, we'll be bringing you guys in because we got ideas. And like I said, I want a little something going viral using this tool.
Yes, love that.
I see people raising their hands in the chat there. They want to be a tester.
Yes,
yeah.
We absolutely love that.
Outstanding. All right, guys. Well, did we get all the questions and stuff? Are you guys seeing? Did everybody get their questions answered? gosh, I've just been so mind blown here.
We really
Yeah,
appreciate
and
that.
then-
And thank you so much for having us, by the way. We really appreciate
I'm
you
telling
guys
you.
here, what we're building, and we appreciate that.
Oh, I'm always, I'm following you guys big time, and you're just representing so well for Michigan. Yay.
Yes.
So you're representing well from sea to shining sea here. Tremendous. I guess that's really it. Again, I just want to, have people remember too, if you're a BBC member, please, please, please fill out that survey. And even if you're following us, we want to hear from you because you are our community that we want to give you this tremendous content and start stirring your mind up as to the possibilities of the business applications. I've just heard, just listening to our conversation here, the possibilities for blockchain legal positions here, our artists, just auditing, of smart contracts, all these kinds of jobs and applications are. That's what I heard from just this little conversation here. Okay. All righty, guys. I think this is it. Thank you so much. Eric, did you want to say something as we exit out or
no, just thank you, Nick and Chase for taking the time. It looks fantastic. I'm definitely gonna be playing with that app. So
thank you so much, and let us know what you think. And yeah, we love to hear feedback. Thank you so much for having us. We really had a fun time chatting.
Oh, you're in the family, no question. You're not going anywhere.
Oh, we love that.
Because you said I saw those things coming soon, so you'll be coming back.
Yes,
so we can open that up and give that a go too. Trust.
100%. And we'll be sharing it with you guys as one of the first groups. So we'll be sure to keep you updated.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Have a good night. Bye.
All right, everybody. Take care. Be safe out there.
Thank you. You too.
Bye now.